I did get it. I just couldn't hear it. I got worried.
Sorry, did we get that? We're good? Okay, we're good.
Okay, also, you need to stay closer to your mic or I'm gonna kill you.
That's hard for me.
I'm fully aware. It was because I recorded it wrong last time, and it's fine because like we still have the audio, but I couldn't separate the tracks. And so you were doing this shit the whole time, and I was like, Grant, I can't stop. I can't cut the audio every time you move away from the mic. And so I just you can still move.
Okay.
The mic just needs to be in between you looking at the camera and you looking at me so that when you alternate, it doesn't cut out and you're still too far away from the mic.
This feels
half of a hang loose.
This feels so close.
I will edit it in post. Now they're on separate tracks and we can bring you down if need be.
No, I don't mean from a volume perspective. I feel like I'm it feels so close.
That's how it should feel. You should feel uncomfortable.
See, the thing is with the table, I was truly limited in my range of motion.
Yeah.
And now I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to fly, mama. I just want to fly.
Then don't.
Clip your wings. Sit your ass back down. Sorry, was that too far away from the mic? Let me get that in real quick. It was worth it. It was worth it. But so mad at me. Hi.
So close. Burning it onto the ground.
Oh, we're just starting the story right away. Gotcha. No. Hi, friends. Hi, welcome. Today is a Saturday. Yes. And I officially report to work Monday morning.
So did you hear that you just did it again?
No. What did I haven't moved any part of my body.
Closer.
Again, it almost makes me
needs to be 3 inches.
It almost makes me how? These are so nice.
I know, but that's why you need to be close because it's not picking up other shit.
I mean, I heard that.
I know but not through your headphones. Or maybe a little, but don't talk about it. It's because if you're farther away, any modulation in your voice is going to pick up double fold because the mics record in a cardioid pattern. Big word, but it just means they record in 2 loops around the mic. So the farther you get away, the less it's picking you up. And so the more you modulate, the bigger you can hear the difference. But if you're here and you modulate a little bit, it'll pick it up fine.
Okay, again, it just feels like so insanely close to my face. And that was my light going out. I want you to remember that.
Apparently this light doesn't want to be dim at all. It's off.
Light, I totally get you. She clipped my wings earlier. And she's probably clipping that part of the audio.
Grow up. I'm just going to put it down there. It'll have the same effect.
Okay, we're going to start that again. Hi. Hello. So today's a Saturday. I officially report back full time on Monday. Mm-hmm. And I'm ready. I have absolutely devolved. Here is what I did today.
Yes, he has.
Read over 100 pages, which is a lot for me.
It is.
Made lunch and dismissively looked at a traveling salesman at my door who knocked in the middle of said lunch. And I answered, I'm wearing an apron because I like my clothes, and I'm wearing a relatively nice apron because I have a bad apron, you know?
True.
And so I opened up the door, and I think he sees in front of him a vision of a medieval blacksmith. So it's green and it's kind of a heavier material. And there is one little brass element part, just one of the clips. But I think he foresees I'm crafting swords in the backyard. Yeah. And so as I swing the door open.
What are you doing?
Right. And I mean, I'm on record earlier in this show that I never answer the door if there's a knock. My friends would call. But he knocked in a cutesy way that I was one of my friends is at the door. So when I opened it and it was a traveling salesperson, I was already upset. And then he was like, whoa, man, you got a lot going on there. What are you making? And I go, lunch. What do you want?
It's just so
pesticides.
brutal.
He was trying to sell me pesticides. And it was
you want that in your lunch?
Right. It was I won't even use, what's the name of the weed killer? Roundup. I won't even use Roundup on my driveway because I walk on it and I don't want to carry that into my house. I'm not letting you spray pesticides all around the side of my house. In no small part,
not paying you
because
to spray
it's
pesticides.
Right.
Yeah.
And also in no small part because it's August. Okay, the bugs that are going to get in are already in, babes.
Yeah.
Right. if you had come in June, maybe something else would have happened. But anyways, I don't think that kind of deregulation is good for me at this stage of things. And I think I was able to delay that by being on a 2-week long road trip in July. And then just kind of in that, remember during the pandemic when like around month 2, we were all like, okay, so this is too much time with me.
Yeah. You look in the mirror and you're like, I could use a break.
Exactly. I started hiking. I'm so ready to go back to work on Monday. Controversial opinion, I know, but I am.
He hasn't even had a pizza day yet. How are you going to
No.
enter the work year?
I did. I had a pizza day literally the day after we talked
okay.
about it.
Oh, but you didn't watch Downton Abbey, is what
No,
you're
I
saying.
watched the Decameron on Netflix and it was wonderful.
Oh, does that even count as a pizza day then?
I think based off of the amount of pizza I ate, yes, it does count definitely as a pizza day.
Fair enough.
No, but you're right. I mean, I was absolutely like God's strongest soldier because I did 2 errands, I think, maybe even 3.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it was endless, really, the things that I accomplished that day. I went to, I got my oil changed.
Wow.
Last time I left the house. That's not that. I took a hot girl walk last night by myself, listening to a melancholy album, Ryan Beatty's Calico. If you are not on it, get on it. It's your fall vibe. Anyways, how have you been?
I'm literally so tired and exhausted, and frankly over it. It's really great. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, because everyone's dreamed of having a house in the city and a house in the suburbs, and there's stuff unevenly split between the two of them.
Yeah, that's the dream, actually. I don't know what anyone's. Yeah, it's fine.
Here's a personal question.
Yes.
Here's my question for you. What was the thing that you needed today that you realized was at your old place that threw you into a violent rage? Because as a person who has been there and has felt that and like knew that this wasn't an appropriate emotional reaction, but we don't get to be in control of what we feel, just how we feel. What was it? Was it a mouse pad?
Here's the thing is that at this point, Amazon 2-day is just really
I'd
easy.
rather wait 48 hours than drive 12 minutes.
Like a little.
Rise up, mental health squad. Rise up.
No, most of the things that I've realized I've needed, I don't have at the townhouse. There was a couple things where I was like, random clothes that I needed. The first couple days were tough, not even because I didn't have it, but because it was packed in God knows what box. And that happened today because I wanted to use a side table for my little laptop set up here. And I was like, do you know where the glass is for that side table? And Casey goes, it's packed in a box. And I was like, which? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, great, it's gone forever. I am not trying to find it right now. And it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
But I read you like a book, like the book I'm reading right now, like the book about pentonas.
Oh no, you were way off actually. had a little trace, 3, son, 3.
You know I don't
Menti
respect that language.
We're on a roll today, baby. It's always fun for me if we're gonna get like a little personal for a second when Casey's family comes into town because they're all so kind and so sweet. And my therapist warned me that this was gonna happen. That like for a while, going to like family functions or being surrounded by Casey's family would be difficult because it's like, damn. That ain't me, you know? And so like yesterday we were at a brewery and like they were showing me old photos of Casey and like telling me stories of like Casey and Connor when they were young. Some of them I'd heard before, but it's still like endearing to hear them tell it, you know? And like the pictures are always really cute. And I was like, damn, my parents aren't, I mean, I don't know if they would have done that in the first place because they're not really that type of like, I don't think they have old pictures of me really on their phone, but it was still like, it's like little things like that. Like Thanksgiving last year, I had control of the music, and previously Casey's older brother had been playing a playlist that he had made, those full of like old rock classics that like they grew up listening to on like road trips and stuff.
Right.
And the playlist is called Shaggin' Wagon.
Oh my God. Good.
So I took over the stuff because he had left or whatever, and so I was playing like a good combo of like classics and like modern stuff. And then Casey's older sister just goes, "What happened to Shaggin' Wagon?" and just started like talking about how she wanted to hear Shaggin' Wagon, and it like sent me into a whole spiral. And it like she didn't mean anything by it, and I don't even like, it wasn't like I was like, "Shut up, this is my music," you know. It was just like, I need a goddamn minute. And then on top of all of that, today I had to go take my wedding dress to go to an alterations appointment. And it was like just a whole nother level of that. And then the alterations lady reminded me of my mom. And then there was another level to that. And then I came home and cried for a while, had a Subway sandwich, don't come at me.
Sorry, only laughing at the eye contact I got as she said the word Subway.
Finished editing, finished writing these notes, and then started working on some other editing I'm behind on for a wedding that I did. So it's been fun. It wasn't something that I lost. Kind of.
With love, that's shit. Like, I am sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think a couple years ago, I would try to, like, silver lining you about all of this, but now I'm just like, that fucking sucks, and I'm sorry about that. It sucks,
bro. Yeah, it's fine.
A burden shared is a burden halved. That comes literally
Brene
from
Brown.
the book I'm reading.
Oh, my God. It's not even Brene Brown.
I mean, it might be. It's all in the same spirit. But I am sorry.
That's fine.
How did the alteration things go, though? Do you look even better?
Well, this was the first appointment.
You know I'm asking about your boobs, so. I have a reputation now, apparently, so I will be living up to it.
Well, unfortunately, the wedding is so soon that I didn't want to, like, get everything super altered, and it fits really well in the bust and everything, so I was like, unless you think, and she's, like, a professional that's been recommended by the bridal boutique and everything, and she was like, honestly, I would just, like, tape, like, double-side tape, like, stick the top, because it's like gaping a little bit, but everything else fits super well. And she was like, I don't even want to tighten it, because if I tighten it, you'll get like skin folds kind of like over the back, because it's strapless. And she was like, I just want to hem it. And so we're hemming it. We're taking the extra fabric from those sleeves, making a little cute Juliet sleeve. I asked her if I could keep the extra fabric, and she was like, why? And I was like,
you're like, because I paid for it.
And I was also like, because I want to make a bow tie for my dog.
I was like, and I have dogs, but I wanted you to say it.
Yeah. And she just went like thumbs up, direct eye contact. And I was like, thank you for your approval. That's really what I needed right now. Yeah.
To explain the boob comment real quick for a second. Now, granted, I know from the 8 straight male listeners that we have, and I know you're 8 because you've emailed us at various points.
Yeah.
I don't need to explain any of this to you. You're rocking and rolling with us.
Yeah, you get it.
But for everyone else, well, I guess there's also quite a few of queer women who listen to us. They also get it.
They get it.
For the gays, I guess is
the
who I'm
gays
talking
and the straight
to.
women, I guess.
I was given a note very early on during the like Maia, what is it called? Did the wedding dress try on thing, whatever shopping experience. There's me and 6 other women, right? Plus Maya's mother-in-law, plus Maia herself. I'm given a note early on from Maia that she wants more cleavage, and because I am a good gay and can remember critical feedback about an outfit, like the next couple dresses were like a little reserved, and I was like, is that enough boob for you? And then everyone was like, Grant needs to see more boob, less clavicle. And it was like, I mean, yes, but
the consultant was like, boob guy over here really likes this one. To be fair, you're the one that brought it up at the next salon.
Well,
so...
yeah, it's not like your notes changed. It's not like your preferences for dresses changed from shop to shop.
I guess.
Listen, one of the most endearing parts of my friendship, not that there's a lot of them, but one of the most endearing ones is that I will remember feedback and then give it back to you. For stuff that you want, like for stuff that you like, you know.
That sounded like a threat. Like a very thinly veiled threat.
My late 20s is when I learned when I need to stop saying things that are true just because I think they're funny.
You know when to stop saying.
I'm learning, right?
Shooketh.
Far later than others, but that's okay. I'm leaning into it.
Talk about it.
As I said earlier, I would have silver linings you, and now I'm not going to.
Thank you.
And now
I
no longer
just punched you in the face, like directly.
I mean, to a degree, would have deserved it.
I would have just turned off the recording on your mic.
I actually think
I could just slide that fader down.
I actually think that would be incredible content for us to show on TikTok. No, for reals, I have stopped saying, "Oh, see you Boulder, so fun," but we've never sent a kid there who had a healthy relationship with their father. I've stopped saying that to strangers whose relationship
As
with
you
fathers.
just said it.
I don't know. It's like clearly a joke. I'm not saying it to anyone particularly. And I mean, I think it's kind of true a little bit, but like, I'm not saying that to anyone's faces anymore. And that's the growth.
That is growth.
Listen, do you know who's not mad at that joke? CSU students, DU students,
Everyone else.
CU in the
Mesa,
city students.
This is like the first time they're in on it.
Literally anyone outside of the state of Colorado. You know who loves that joke? Nebraska fans. Okay, I am appealing to a base right now, right?
Sure.
So it was what? Buck the Fuffs? Yeah, there we go.
That took you way too
well,
long.
because it was the first swear word I was allowed to say as a kid.
Buck the Fuffs.
Correct, because if you switch
yeah.
it, right. But because I can now just say it, I have to like reverse engineer it in my own brain.
Oh,
yeah, I
that's
know.
good.
Anything else that I need to share? Anything else that I need to share? Pizza Day upsets me physically, and I'm now also remembering why I only do it once a year.
That's my favorite part of Pizza Day for you is the realization
the next day,
that you like can't
which starts
do this.
at like 11 p.m. when I'm like, I'm never gonna financially recover from this. Right, exactly. And I'm like, I'm trying to live tweet Maia, but I'm also trying to like respect our boundaries as friends and like
You
not
can live
give you
tweet
play.
me whatever. I'm just not gonna respond for a good. The more you text me, the more emotional the text is, the longer it will take for me to respond. And that's a statement on me, not a statement on you.
I have texted the Bohawks 4 times in a row, nary a response from either one of them, and I'm
Are they alive?
I mean,
Should we go check?
I did check their location and it
They're
was
a block
moving,
away.
and they're by no, they're not.
Oh.
They're on the East Coast. They're like on a beautiful romantic little
Okay,
getaway
whatever.
right now.
When are they
I know,
not?
like they can't respond to their child who's technically
what the
8 days
hell?
older than them.
Nah. That's dumb. That's on them.
No, but it's like it's a sudden influx of meat, but then like a drastic sudden influx of cheese, and I just can't do that anymore. Oh, I actually do have one final thing, but I've kind of been saying a lot. Do you have something you want to say?
No, I can't remember anything, and I don't want to find my phone at the moment to look at my notes.
Okay, so you want to announce 2 things. First, I'm in the middle of reading this book right now. I'm only halfway through. I do not know how it ends, but I am hooked on it right now. And it's called The World and All It Holds. It's queer. It stars 2 men who meet each other in the Austro-Hungarian army at the start of World War I. I know, it's gay, it's historical, it's actually like beautifully written too. It took me a good 30 minutes to get into the author's voice, and now I'm like, this is his poetry. In the middle of it, in the middle of reading it today, we got an email from someone, like a listener story, and it's like the most beautiful little love story.
Oh.
And it actually really messed me up when I read it briefly. And I'm not going to share it right now. Like I am 100% going to save it for the listener episode because they sent it for the listener episode Horsing Around. Oh, yeah. But I think it might also work really well for this next theme, which is
a lover scorn, which I decided yesterday or something.
Which is why it wasn't on last week's episode.
Oh, perfect.
And that was the last thing. But like, what's the theme of?
The theme. I should post it on Instagram so people can or send in stuff. I'm so tired. Okay, it's A Lover Scorned. I literally went to my notes app of like my suggested stories, or like I just write down story notes when I like get them suggested. And truthfully, I don't remember where this story I found it or where it was suggested. So I'm terrified that you know exactly what I'm about to do because it was the top of my notes app.
That's funny.
And I just like looked at the Wikipedia page really quick, and I was like, I got to like paragraph 2, and I was like, this is it. And in truth, it's not a super long story. And I was at the point where I was like, this is like a shorter episode where I could add another story. And I was like, I don't physically have the time or emotional capacity to. So I know last time I did a story, Michael Barrisone, I was like, I'm so sorry. This is not well researched.
And then it was like 2 hours long.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm so sorry. This is not well researched. But this is like this story. You'll see why it doesn't really need
Bear
to
episode
be.
was like 48 minutes.
I know.
Long.
Who are we?
I know.
Where did we go?
Like, here's the thing. Not to subtweet anybody, but my favorite history podcast is Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, and he's now down to a pace where he releases like 1 4-hour episode a year.
That's insane.
And it's like beautifully researched, and there's a lot of quotes. Like it's a great episode. It's still highly recommended. But I'm like, Mama, Maia is serving that up every 3 weeks, and I get to it like twice a quarter.
And I just really appreciate when we get comments that are like, there's one person I think that's commented on the last couple episodes that have been like, 2 hours? You guys are really doing it for us. And I'm like,
well, and then you set the bar, and then someone was like, hour 45. Come on, Grant, step it up. And I want to be like, was grating so much this week. And we know it's all in jest, that it's like, give us more, But
It is. So anyway, the story is fun. You'll see why it doesn't necessarily need to be well researched once I get into it. But.
So when we jump into it, then I will share. When you texted me the theme.
Yeah, your first response was,
oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay.
Yeah.
Because I instantly had one topic that I wanted to do. And then turns out there's also a second topic I might want to do. And so the tough thing is I already know what my next theme is going to be.
Yes. Do you just want to announce it now?
History's Mysteries.
Yes.
And that episode 3 will be a special surprise.
I need to start thinking about the logistics
of getting that figured out in this space.
We might be recording somewhere
in the
else.
living room.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I feel like I'm overflowing with stories. Oh, and then a friend texted me 2 more. So.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
LOL if I end up doing a 2-parter. I doubt it.
For History's Mysteries or for this one? A Lover Scorned? A Lover Scorned. Okay.
Also now I'm like, I could do a 2-parter for History's Mysteries, but then that cuts you out of the narrative.
Then I can't. Oh, no, I can't do one. I'm so tired, y'all.
I will secretly share this burden if I need to. This has been so much teasing, literally so much edging of the story, but they're like, just tell the story already.
Okay.
Someone shut up.
Let's go. Okay.
Can you hear that? Can you? Should it I have to get one more in.
Y'all, I am like one loud, surprising noise away from punching my head through a window. And it's not because I'm frustrated. It's mostly like sad and frustrated, and also like I've cried too many times, and I'm like, everyone, if another person looks at me, I will lose my goddamn mind. Okay, here we go.
So with that, Grant, try it. Heard. Gotcha.
Just kidding. I did tell you this is a shorter episode, and I do have a question for you, and it's mostly just me hoping that you have context.
This. I hadn't checked my phone in 5 minutes.
Oh, and you have a
and
bunch
checked
of
it just to see what the time was.
It's 7:23 p.m.
Right, just so I know for like as we record how long the episode.
Hey, Grant, did you know it's 7:23 p.m.?
I do now.
If I could have your whole and full attention.
Okay, but do you want to hear what one of the texts says?
Yeah. It was from Jacob.
You said that not because you wanted my attention, but because you wanted the details.
Hello, include me, please.
Okay, so there's a couple of different things. One from CVS, one from Hinge, one from from Jacob. They're in DC right now.
Okay.
And this is not a response to any of the things I have texted them. Jacob just says, at a restaurant Danny recommended. I'm both enjoying it and judging his taste.
That is so Jacob energy, too.
I know.
I love that.
Okay, tell me the story. You have a question for me?
I have a question, and it's mostly me just like...
Abraham Lincoln on the Titanic.
Make it into a t-shirt.
I would absolutely read that book. Just make sure that he's in love with Jack Donahue or whatever his... That's the guy from 30 Rock.
Oh,
Dawson.
Yeah. Okay, I was like, Donahue doesn't sound right, but I know what you mean. Okay.
Stanley Tucci.
So
I
funny.
almost texted you that every single day this week.
I haven't edited that Patreon yet. I need to be in the right headspace because I'm either going to annoy myself or I'm going to be laughing along, and there's no in between.
Just one long gay sip.
Yeah.
Stanley Tucci. Yeah. You were talking about Stanley Tucci. Everyone's always talking about Stanley Tucci.
But then you thought that you were wrong. Anyway, okay.
Okay.
The Kievan Rus.
Okay.
Is ruled from Kiev, which was located in modern-day Kiev.
Which is located also in modern-day Russia, in parts of southern Belarus.
Isn't it Ukraine?
What did I say?
Belarus and Russia.
Oh, I didn't mean Ukraine. I'm so sorry about that. Which is located in modern-day Ukraine
and
like, southern Belarus.
Am I really wrong?
No, I'm making just a bad opinion on... I'm 100% not Ukraine. In fact, I was, in my mind, going... Don't say Russia.
Yeah, and that's why you said Russia. Okay. I started this and I was like, Kievan Rus was ruled from blank, 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 fill in later, which was located in modern day blank, 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 fill in later. And when I did the research, I was like, this is dumb and I'm not changing it. Okay. Modern day Kiev, and it would serve to control the trade to the Baltic Sea, the Black Sea, east to the Germanic, and west to the steppes. The Kievan Rus covered modern-day Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. Grant, what are your thoughts on the Kievan Rus' origin, if you have any thoughts?
Are we talking about the dispute between Byzantine Christianity and Russian Orthodox Christianity?
We'll get into that in a second.
Are we talking
not
about
really. I'm talking about like the beginning of the Kievan Rus.
Are we talking about potentially Viking explorations?
I'm trying to get into that's not what we're talking about, but
Okay.
that's what I was queuing you up to like.
So one, I think like super impressive that you just say the phrase Kievan Rus, and I'm like, well, I have two thoughts.
Okay, I mean, you could do that to me about like table salt. So, what are your thoughts?
I know,
on
but when is
NaCl?
that gonna play at trivia at?
I don't know, but I also found out that the restaurant across the street. Also, we need to cut.
Oh, because no free advertising.
Yes,
right.
well, no, because I live very close.
Oh,
to that.
also
So,
that yes,
trivia at
your
the-
safety as well.
say
See how-
trivia at the beer garden near you.
Trivia. Okay, but when is that going to play at the trivia at the beer garden near you?
And I also found out the restaurant.
Go ahead.
And I also found out that at the restaurant across the street has trivia on the next day. So I'm thinking that we just like
Have you eaten at that restaurant?
not yet. We
Called
looked at their
1,
menu
2, 3
yesterday.
restaurant. No, I'm kidding. It's actually so good. The food is phenomenal.
Yeah, the menu looked really
Yeah.
good.
It has like kind of like a neighborhood old town
It
classic feel
does.
to it.
Yeah, we looked at so Casey's mom and dad are here today, or mom and dad were here last night into this morning, and Casey's dad left today, and then Casey's mom is staying with us through Monday. But we went to go look at the menu after being at that beer garden, and Casey's dad just goes, "Oh, it's a Sunday morning restaurant. Look at that Bloody Mary Bloody Mary menu." And I was like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. The Kievan Rus. Continue.
I mean, I said Vikings. I said the difference between like Orthodox Christianity and
So how did the Vikings start the Kievan Rus?
so they would float down those rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking for the name of the river?
No, I'm just like.
Because the Danube is far too west of there. No, I don't think
Geopolitically,
so.
it was started by Vikings.
Okay, so that's what you're... Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what more you want.
I don't-
Can I please get a 3 on this AP exam?
No.
I need general credits for college.
You needed to say at least 3 more sentences.
That's so messed up of you to say because you know I love to say that to my students.
That's exactly why I
Give
said
me
it.
3 more sentences
Yeah.
on that.
Exactly. So
And I think this is what love is. I don't know. I've never experienced it romantically, but I think it's mainly knowing. Said just to get her facial reaction.
all right. Okay. So Grant was not really helpful at all.
I mean,
So
fully accurately correct, but absolutely stabbing into a dark room. So I have no idea what direction you want me to take it.
anyway, the rule in this area, the Kievan Rus was massive, right? And so the rule in this area, it came down from the Vikings, from where is it? Norway, I believe,
Scandinavia?
which is in Scandinavia, Norway, whatever. They came down, they set up the Kievan Rus on those like trade routes, but it was never like really solidly established. It's very loosely established in terms of rule. And so there is like one big head honcho, like ruler. I'm not sure what they call it. Didn't seem like they called it a king. It was more like a prince, but I don't know. I'm confused. I didn't deep dive into it. There is one big ruler, but then there are like the equivalent of like lords, right, of the various regions. So there are regional princes, kind of as they would call it. And so...
And I'm not even joking. Do you know what those princes ruled?
No.
Principalities.
That's hysterical.
That's like where we get a lot of that language.
Wow,
from.
Russia is really...
I mean, that's a word in English too.
I know, but it like the originality.
Yeah, it's like a loosely decentralized structure.
Yeah.
Sorry, you just
No, you're good.
completely questioned my knowledge of this region at this time.
So now you're feeling competitive and
Ye-
defensive.
Yeah, you know me, girl.
Yeah, I know.
There are things I'm working on, and there's things I'm not.
Anyway, bullet point 3.
We always do our best work in the opening paragraph. I swear.
know.
Anyways,
I know. Okay, so the main source for the story I'm about to tell you is the Russian Primary Chronicle, which is shortened to the Primary Chronicle. It's a chronicle on the Kievan Rus from about 850 to 1110. So mid 9th century to late or early 12th century. And it's thought to have been compiled like officially in 1110 in Kiev. And it was first thought to be written by Nestor the Compiler, which is
love that name.
wonder what he did. Do you know that there's an episode of The Office where you're meeting Phyllis's fiance or boyfriend,
Bob
Bob.
Vance Refrigeration.
My ex-boyfriend thought it was so funny, and now I think it's funny because I didn't pick up on it the first couple times that I watched it.
Aren't we all just a quilt of everyone else we've ever loved, or whatever
Okay,
that quote is?
Shut up. Don't make me get introspective right now. I'm not in the right headspace. But when Bob goes around...
Listener, to be clear, I don't know what my strategy is either. I'm really just throwing things against the wall. Continue. Bob Vance Refrigeration.
He introduces himself to everyone in a circle, and every time he just goes, Bob Vance Refrigeration. Bob Vance Refrigeration. Bob Vance Refrigeration. At the end, Ryan just goes, so what line of work you in, Bob? That line kills me every time now. Anyway, so Nestor the compiler.
Right, okay.
I wonder what he does. Nestor... Can't get anything done around here. Nestor was a monk who wrote other works like Chronicle of Nestor.
Good. As opposed to the compiler of Nestor.
It was like
I
his
compiled
diary.
all the stories I heard about myself into a far more interesting tale.
And then he also wrote Life of the Venerable Theodosius.
I was
AKA,
waiting for him to say Nestor.
Yeah. AKA, he's who you and I are commissioning when we get super rich to commission works of art and literary pieces.
I am absolutely throwing down the gauntlet. I challenge someone to make my life sound more interesting than I already managed to fabricate to do.
It's true. It would
Literally
be
to
literally
Michelle
impossible.
30 minutes ago, I said, I have to stop telling stories because I'm going to say them on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, oh my, I won't laugh the second time. And I said, worse, the second time I tell a story, I start to exaggerate.
It's really true. It's really
What did Abby
true.
say? I thought it was going to be more...
I thought it was going to be more hyperbole
Right.
from Grant. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's
No.
true.
Told the dead honest truth sometimes. And
Yeah.
that's what throws people off.
It's, yeah. Anyway,
Okay, so Theodosius.
I'm just surrounded by idiots.
Never said I was smart. Said I was Phil Dunphy in June. So
What? Okay. So historians at this point have naturally kind of started to assume that he must have written the chronicle or the primary chronicle, because he did write a bunch of, it's like proven that he's written some other historical pieces that are very relevant nowadays. But if you can deep dive into this if you want, but basically too long didn't read TLDR. There was something found in the original translation of the Russian primary chronicle that historians believe was incorrectly contextualized over the years. And so Nestor's authorship is now strongly contested, but it has not been solidly disproven.
So they are trying to figure out the context and all in which they live and came before them. The Kamala Harris quote.
Oh,
How does no one know about that?
no.
I worked that quote. I'm not even joking. I'm at Austin Bergstrom Airport. I worked that quote into a grad paper on pedagogy.
Say pedagogy one more goddamn time on this podcast. I'm turning you
Curious.
off. So anyway, it's possible Nestor wrote the primary chronicle. It's also possible he did not. The other possible authors are Sylvester of Kiev, who's also a monk, or another unnamed monk.
Shout out to everyone who heard Sylvester and autofilled Stallone.
Or another unnamed monk from the Kiev monastery of the caves.
Nice.
I didn't even have time to look. I didn't even have time to click on that link. I was like, Monastery of Caves, weird. Anyway.
One of the stories I'm thinking about doing for my part is honestly just a story of backstories. Like
I love
a
that.
story of like, and then this side character. I've done one of those
Love that.
before.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite episodes I've ever done, episode 5.
I want to point out we're like just 5 minutes into this episode, like the actual details,
Yeah.
and all I know is that there's a man named Nestor, the
And
compiler.
that's the end of Nestor.
Oh, shut up for real.
Yeah.
I thought we had met our main character.
No, I was just giving you a backstory for my main source.
Okay,
Which you
okay.
can read. The primary chronicle has been translated into English, and that was one of my big sources.
So you gave us a backstory for your main source, and then was like, but could be wrong.
No, the person who wrote it is contested.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I have
Wait,
other
so they believe this
sources.
story, but not who wrote it?
We'll get into it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. Anyway, this is what I've learned from the primary chronicle, among other sources. So at the time that we're going to be talking about, this is late 9th century, early 10th century. The big head honcho ruler of the Kievan Rus was the legendary Varangian chief Rurik. Varangian is just a word for Viking conquerors from modern-day Sweden. His heir at the time was Igor I. Igor I was pretty young, late 9th century, so late 800s. But Rurik died sometime between 870 and 880. At this time, Igor was too young to rule, so Rurik entrusted the land to his kinsman, or like second in command, Oleg, who, TLDR, again, didn't get into this. This is just like backstory to
There's
the
a lot
story.
of burnt ends in this story.
I was just like, we could deep dive, but it has no relevance to what I'm talking about. So Oleg seemed interesting. Did a lot of stuff for the Kievan Rus, probably expanded the territory a lot. He dies in 912 and then leaves the throne to Igor I. So that's how Igor I comes into power.
Okay.
Igor married a woman named Olga, probably around 903.
Boy, if you didn't know these people were Russian, you
yeah,
do now.
yeah, true. Igor and Olga, it's like two of the most stereotypical names. Okay, so Olga is suspected to be around 15 at this point. I think Igor is probably in his 20s, 30s. I'm not sure. Olga was the daughter of one of the most powerful regional rulers in the Kievan Rus, so like one step below Igor, but still like a noble lady, if you will. Likely from a city called Pleskov. It exists today as Pskov. Yeah, Pskov. And she was born sometime around the end of the 9th century. Her early life is not well documented, as it is with a lot of women around this time, and it's possible she was also of the Viking origin. And Olga and Igor together had a son named Svat Olslav.
I was waiting for you to say Svetka.
Svat Olslav. And so there's a quote from one of my sources here. Igor takes the throne, and there's
Dum dum da da dum dum da da dum. Y'all should really get on Maia's mailing list for Instagram reels. It's actually pretty informative sometimes.
Thank you.
Continue. There's a whole instrument they use.
Isn't it so cool though?
It was.
It's literally, the instrument they use is a mix between an electric guitar and a cello.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. Quote from one of my sources. Okay. Igor takes the throne, and obviously this kind of sends the geopolitical arena into discourse, right?
So is this the son now grown? Yeah. So Igor takes the throne.
Yeah, so this is still early 900s.
Okay.
And obviously some of the people that are under him but not under him, because at this point like neighboring tribes or groups will pay tribute to the Kievan Rus as like similar to like a business paying tribute to like a mafia boss, you know,
yeah,
of
they're
like
vassals.
Yeah, of like, we'll give you protection, and also if you don't pay us, we will destroy you.
Right,
you know,
right.
So it's like in good faith but not. This is a quote from one of my sources. Quote, Kievan Rus was a growing empire in the mid-10th century, but you don't grow an empire without putting the squeeze on all your neighbors, and you don't squeeze your neighbors without making them resent you so bad they can't even sleep at night. That's beautiful. So one of the neighbors were the Drevlians. In today's world, they would be located in modern-day Ukraine. And they were a neighboring tribe that had worked together with the Kievan Rus on a number of military campaigns against the Byzantine Empire. And so they were paying tribute to the Kievan Rus as well. The Drevlians paid until 1912 when Oleg passed. 912. And then they decided to shop local, as one of my sources put it, and start paying a local warlord instead of the Kievan Rus.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, you got to do that with your insurance too every couple years. Yeah. You just gotta kind of shop around a little bit.
Like, make them, apparently with Adobe, like every couple years, you're supposed to be like, I'm canceling my membership.
Yes.
And then they'll be like, what if we offer you a lower rate?
That's what I do with my internet. I've told you this before.
Yeah.
I go in and I'm like, this is too expensive. And they're like, we can give you $5 off. And I go, I want to cancel it. And they go, what if we give you a 50% discount? And I go, okay, I'll stay for another year. And all we have to do is physically go in.
So lazy. I'm just like,
Take $55 times 12.
no, I don't want to.
Right, that's like almost $600.
No, I get it. I fully
Right.
understand the financials.
And my internet shop is right across the street from
Internet shop.
yeah, PPE Shoppy. The old internet shop is right across right across the street from a Target. And so it's like I'm already going. I might as well threaten to pull my contract. I'm like not even joking.
I'm gonna go ruin some person's day.
It's like a reoccurring calendar invite, much like my sister's birthday.
Yes.
Go negotiate your internet.
That's pretty smart. Not
Start a family plan with 4 people. Cut your phone bill in half. Okay, these are real savings to boost your daily
I
income.
would love to do that. I don't have any friends that aren't on their freaking family's family plan.
I'm on my family's family plan, and by that I mean the Bohawks family plan. I took the last available spot.
No,
It's the Bohawk siblings, and then Grant.
I am on a solo cellular plan
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
you're
Do you
paying
know
through the
how
nose.
expensive
Probably
that
about like
is?
$95 a month, right?
About.
Yeah.
And then I listened to all these ads. They're like $25 a line. No, it's not. No, it's not.
You
It's
get
never
older,
$25
and you
a line.
immediately, eventually you realize the appeal of the Price is Right.
I do. I get
As a
it.
child, I was like, what are any of these prices? And now I'm like, yeah, that's about $325 right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
Casey's really good with houses. We play this game now where I'm like, how much do you think that house
That
is? And I'll
isn't
check on
shocking at all.
Zillow. And he's usually within like a couple $100. You know, he's like there.
Here's your test.
Yeah.
Last night at Target. I'm not at Target this often. I'm a teacher, I promise. Last night at Target, I got a small pack of Clorox wipes, 35 count. How much do you think it cost me?
35 count. It's hard to tell
Generic.
nowadays because prices have gone up so much. $7.
$2.99.
Generic. That's
Yep.
right. I was in Clorox.
We were talking about the Principality of Kiev.
Kiev and Roots. How did we
Here's
get
the thing.
here?
I actually, because they started to shop around.
Yeah, they
and I
did.
was like, well, I have a type 5 on that.
Someone emailed my work email the other day and was like, do you have a type 15 to talk about your next blah, blah, blah project? And I was like,
What?
it was like, you got the wrong number. I do not have manager in my title. You're wrong. Okay. So the Drevlians are like, we're going to pay a local warlord instead of the big business, the big corporation.
Right,
So
right. Shop local credit
yeah,
union. Gotcha.
exactly. Yeah. So Igor is like, okay, seriously, like I'm already managing taking on the throne.
Right.
And you guys got to pull this. And if you pull this, then everyone else is going to pull this. And I can't let that happen. So he realizes he has to maintain tribute, not just for the monetary and materialistic benefit, because usually a lot of these tributes would come in fur and mead.
I'm just laughing because I wonder how a guy named Igor is about to like reinforce his authority over things.
Igor's about to have another thing come in.
Bad day to not want your head on a spike.
That's well.
Oh. I love knowing history. Continue.
Okay.
I said flirtatiously to a man online the other day, I'm actually endorsed to teach history and English. Ugh, who am I? Run me over.
I would have if you had said that to me on a date.
Worst part, it worked. Anyways.
They're like, tell me everything.
Yes, I'm charming.
Anyway, so here's where there's some discrepancy in like the records. It says in 1945, Igor goes to
945.
What did I say?
19.
Yep, 945. Igor goes to Iskorosten, which is the Drevlian capital, to demand the tribute. There's some disagreement about this timeline. It seems like there was a Drevlian uprising maybe in 912 when he first took the throne,
Sure.
then Igor like quelled that, and then the Drevlians then again stopped paying tribute in the 40s. The primary chronicle seems confused in regard because it implies that there's only 3 years between Igor taking the throne and this particular visit to the Drevlian capital. Because it implies that he took the throne in 941. There's some issue with like his son's age because his son is only 3 at this point. Anyway, regardless, it's like something happened. Either way, there's an issue between the Drevlians and the Kievan Rus in 945.
And they send literally the head boss of the Kievan Rus to go take care
Igor
of it.
is like, all right, I'll figure this out. So one source said it was his first trip. There was another source that said, however, that in 945 he had already gone. They had already been like, fine, you got us.
Sure.
Here's your tribute. And he was leaving. And as Igor was leaving, he's like, this was not enough. I think the article that I read, one of them said, Igor checked his privilege and realized that it wasn't enough. Something like that. And went to demand more. And so... Grant.
It's just giving so much first week of school vibes,
yeah.
which is like what you accept is the most you will get.
Yes.
And so you got to set a high bar.
It's true. And so, Grant, do you remember that ghost tour we took in Prague?
I actually think about that city every week. What about the ghost tour?
Okay. Do you remember what the weird thing the tour guide just like would not shut up about? And then he was like, sorry if this is too much.
Oh, you mean all of the intense, horrific descriptions of torture and murder?
Yeah. So what do you think the Drevlians did,
Listen,
babes?
obviously you guys can autofill. We are in this like gorgeous city and it's like lightly raining. Like it's just enough to warrant an umbrella, but not so much that you have to be under. Like it is perfect evening.
Oh, it was
like
amazing.
Dark, slick cobblestones, like 1,000 churches that are not churches anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best night of my life. And he's like, and then they were like, ah, and you're like, my baby, and their ghost now hangs out here at the Starbucks.
And then he would hand out laminated photos of renderings of the torture. And we were like, or even like his phone.
Yes.
We were like, what? And your boss said what to you?
And it's also so fascinating because he wasn't like a local Prague citizen.
Mm-hmm.
He was like in any good European tourist trap. An Australian?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah,
an
he was like a
Australian or a
European,
Londoner,
for sure.
like there for some other reason, you know?
Yeah.
Loved it. Okay, so what did they do to Igor?
The Drevlians are like, okay, you've taken it one step too far. We gave you your tribute.
You want a full refund?
Yeah, that's...
Despite being past the 30-day warranty?
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I will say, if you have children in the car or maybe don't want to hear... It's not
At this
gory.
point, if you listen to this with children in the car, I hope they are cool kids.
Yeah, it's not gory, but it is like, if you imagine it a little like, you know. Anyway, Igor gets a firsthand experience of these old torture practices, and specifically, he gets something called the human hammock.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's a super brief, skip forward like 5 seconds.
Okay.
The Drevlians bent 2 birch trees down toward the ground, tied each of the trees to different body parts, and then let the trees go. And he just, unfortunate, I think that same article that I read that just has all these banger lines was just like, the trees snapped, or the trees bent back, and Igor didn't.
Oh.
Yeah, so Igor is no more.
So Dan Carlin, in his podcast, Hardcore History, actually has what I think is a really interesting kind of side discussion about this, because it's an important part of a lot of ancient tales too, is like the horrific torture that people went through. And one of the questions he raised, it's like this 2-part question, like an either or situation. Either was like violence in all of its many forms so much more common in the ancient world that they were all just kind of more immune to it. Or were they very much like us and were actually like being traumatized by what they were seeing, and that was changing their like psyche and decision-making ability. Like, is it like us watching football today where it's like 2 people running into each other, you know, that's just what we've come to expect? Or would it be like us today seeing something like that and be like, I will remember that even when I try to close my eyes, right? And I think that's because it's like so easy to depict the history teacher is like so coming out of me right now. But it's so easy. In my mind, it's so easy to depict these people as like little Lego men or like little like video game people. And these were real people who not only felt that, and that's obviously your first reaction is like, oh my God, to be Igor the second before, the second after. I think people think that too about the guillotine during the French Revolution, but to just be any number of like nameless person that watched it. And then too, and now this is the real part that I'm like, okay, this is now the English teacher half of me, where it's like those people's internal lives were just as rich as ours are today. Right? Like not only were they not little like virtual people, but like
they had whole experiences. Like all of them did. Crazy.
So anyways, no answer there. Just like, in fact,
imagine how many people you need to bend over a birch tree, though. Like, it's not just like one executioner pulling
probably
a string.
Like a couple horses.
Maybe, yeah.
And I wonder if there's like a levy system.
Yeah.
Anyway. Plus 15 for a graphic description of an execution style. Dan Carlin asked this question because there's this called the boats, where they would tie a person to a boat and cover most of their body so the birds couldn't get them because that would kill you right away. But would lather you in milk and honey and then let the bugs eat you, including the soft parts of your body. But you ultimately died from dehydration and shitting yourself to death. But the entire time you're being eaten alive by bugs. Sorry if that was more of a plus 30.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, and that's when he was like, so like this question.
So
And that was like
anyway,
that was a quick description
yeah.
of the torture
Yeah.
method called the boats. But yeah.
Oh my god, they're all crazy.
I won
It's
a couple
wild.
of awards when I taught history exclusively.
Okay, anyway.
I'm good at it, Maya. I'm good at it.
Okay. So anyway, Igor is no more, right? So now who rules the Kievan Rus, right? So the Drevlians are like, we do, right? The Drevlians have gone from the underdogs, refusing to be taken by the man, refusing to pay taxes, essentially. And now they've gone to a group that is like beat out the ruling
King of the
class.
North.
Yeah. And now they're like, take Kiev now,
exactly.
Yes. And so they're like, you know what we should do? Because technically he has an heir and it's that son, but the son is too young. And so Olga is now the reigning
queen.
Regent queen. Regent queen. And so they're like, let's go take advantage of...
Sorry, she's the queen. Consort. That's such a niche joke to House of the Dragon. Continue.
That was such a bad... Did you see?
You told me this episode's short, so I'm just indulging in
good.
every little thought that I have.
But the scene where they pan to Rhaenyra and she's talking to Daemon for the first time like all season, and Simon in the background is like, when everything goes right, he starts like clapping and he realizes
like
no one else
Santa
is
Claus character in the back.
Him.
Yes.
There was a video there's a Baratheon guy that was in the I don't remember what his name is. The Baratheon that Rhaenyra sends to Harrenhal.
Yeah.
There's a video that he took like backstage, like the actor, and the guy who plays Simon is driving the golf cart and he's holding on for dear life. And he's like, if I don't make it, this is to my family and friends. So
During
funny.
Patreon, because I have to save something for Patreon, I'm going to talk to them about the messages I sent you and Kylie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I haven't actually read them. I saw them on my screen. I just haven't gotten to reading them. Okay, so
they move on Kiev, where there's a queen regent.
Yeah, so they're like, let's take advantage of Igor's unsuspecting wife, who is now ruling as regent since their son is too young.
Wait, I'm sorry, unsuspecting. Hilarious. They think they're gonna beat the messenger to Kiev. They snapped the king in half.
No, I think they expect Olga to know,
but she won't have enough time to like prepare.
They think that she just like won't have a plan. So
dealt women at your own risk.
Yeah, and so the Drevlians send 20 of their, I think, ambassadors.
20.
Sorry,
okay.
Like a whole group.
I would send an army. I just killed the king.
Yeah.
But what do I know about geopolitics?
Yeah. Well, they're coming on friendly terms.
Right.
So they say. So they're sending 20 people to Kievan Rus to convince Olga to marry their prince, Prince Mal.
Not a bad play. All right.
Yeah, and they're like, you don't have a husband, like marry our prince who killed your husband, but like we don't need to talk about that.
Right.
And so this would thus give the Drevlians the power over Kievan Rus by marrying Olga to Prince Mal. Olga is acting regent, blah blah blah. So they're literally asking her to marry her husband's murderer. And her response, this is a direct quote from the Primary Chronicle: "Your proposal is pleasing to me, indeed. My husband cannot rise from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
But I desire to honor you tomorrow in the presence of my people. So return now to your boat and remain there with an aspect of arrogance. I shall send for you on the morrow, and you shall say, we will not ride on horses, nor go on foot. Carry us in our boat, and you shall be carried in your boat." So she's telling them like, okay, like I'll consider it. But I want to like honor you, honor your entrance, like,
I want to
officially.
make it look clear to the people that I'm like, welcome, River Lords.
Welcome. Yes, exactly. And also I want you to tell the people that I send to you that you're not coming by foot, that they need to carry you in your boat. And to give you perspective, it's not like a Viking ship or something. It's like the rowboat that they had to take to shore, right? So it's not like huge. It is big, but it's not like huge. So sure enough, the next day, Olga summons them, and the Drevlians tell the people of Kiev who come to retrieve them, "We will not ride on horseback, nor in wagons, nor go on foot. Carry us in our boat." thinking that it's like the palanquins, where like they're feeling like super royal, right? So the primary chronicle then says, the people of Kiev lamented, slavery is our lot, our prince is killed, and our princess intends to marry their prince. So they carried the Drevlians in their boat.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the
Sorry. I was like, and then they set it on fire, right?
No, then the Kiev people were like, well, damn,
I was
that
like,
sucks.
Viking funeral while alive.
They were like,
Listen,
anyway.
you're not the only one shocked. I
Yeah,
am also shocked.
right?
And I know history.
The Kiev were like, man. So the Drevlians loved this idea. They sat on the like cross benches of their boat
Sure they did.
and act all like puffed up.
Getting the boat out of the water on, like, that's such an intense angle.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So funny.
And then they must have like been like,
I've been
like,
whitewater
just, like,
rafting. I know what that clench is like.
Yeah. They're just like so puffed up and prideful. And so they're brought before Olga as Olga had promised.
In their boat still.
In their boat. And Olga, and then the people promptly throw them, boat and all, into a trench
Hell yeah.
that Olga had dug in the castle
Yes.
overnight.
Amazing.
And
So they get them all at once.
they get them all at once, all 20, with the boat, by the way.
So even if you get out, you're not escaping.
And so Olga then bends over.
Bring them in their SUV
Yeah.
Escalade. Throw them in the garden.
Olga bends over, looking into the trench. Oh, this is a direct quote again. Olga bent over and inquired whether they found the honor to their taste. Because remember, she said, I wish to honor you tomorrow. If she found the honor to their taste, they answered that it was worse than the death of Igor. She then commanded...
When they snapped in half.
I was like, okay.
Sorry. I'm going to cut you off again.
I have one more sentence.
Okay, I'm not going to cut you off.
She then commanded that they should be buried alive, and they were thus buried.
Oh my God, yeah. There's this great tweet.
Yeah.
It reminded me of it. And he goes, oh, no, I'm sorry. I said, fuck your feelings. My feelings are gentle and delicate and must always be considered.
Be protected at all costs.
Exactly. Listen, I know this isn't going to shock anyone because my top 3 favorite artists are, in this order, Maggie Rogers, Carly Rae Jepsen, Casey Musgraves. But strong, powerful women. I mean, she's 4th.
Okay.
Strong, powerful women are so hot to me.
No, I agree.
I mean,
fully.
Good for Olga.
Fully and
because
wholly.
Olga's like, wait, I get to be just in charge of this country without a husband?
Yeah.
And I've already
my son
established
is
my reign.
3 years old.
Pop off future Catherine the Great. I mean, I know that's not this historical
Yeah.
story, but that's awesome.
Yeah, so she kills them.
And then buries them alive. Which is actually like,
also,
so horrific.
that line, that how is the honor to your taste?
Right.
Iconic.
Also,
Yeah.
what a deep trench.
Yeah.
That 20 men can't climb out of.
Yeah. Or maybe they're just like surrounded enough that they like.
I wonder how
can't.
many bones they broke too. Like getting thrown.
Yeah.
Also, how? Because it's not like they like pulled a rug away and it was like trench.
No.
Like part of me is like, how do you not see the trench coming?
Here, let me show you the
Is there a painting?
rendering. Yeah.
Yes.
This is the rendering.
Oh, so it's not like they hit the bottom and they're like, what? It's like as the boat goes over, they're like, well, I think our ship is sunk.
They're like, well, damn, this sucks.
That looks like one of the paintings stolen from the Gardner Museum.
It's just so dramatic. Like every person is having a rich life of their own, like, oh, what's happening? Okay, so after this, Olga sends word back to the Drevlians that, okay, I'll marry your prince, but if you really want me to marry your prince, send an escort. Like, I'm a princess. My people aren't gonna let me go to your place.
Do the Drevlians know she's already killed 20 of their ambassadors?
No, they think that they're still there.
Hilarious.
Yes. Yeah. Because they killed all of them. There's not even a messenger to go back.
Yep.
So Olga sends word back to the Drevlians that if they really want her to marry the prince, they should send their best men to escort her, or else her people would not let her go. The Drevlians were like, yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so
glad we sent those 20 aristocrats.
Yeah, because the aristocrats can't do anything, and so the Drevlians sent truly. They were in a boat. They sent her the requested men, and when they arrived, Olga is a benevolent host, right? And she's like, you must be so tired from your journey. take a bath first. Like, take a bath, relax.
Here, give me your coats. I'll put them on the guest bedroom bed.
Yeah, exactly. Before, like, take a bath, clean off, rest before you come to me.
Present yourself appropriately.
Yes. And so she orders a bath be drawn for them and that they should appear before her after they had bathed. The men enter the bathhouse, and Olga's men close the doors behind them.
Hot.
And then Olga orders the bathhouse be set aflame.
I love a woman that's not above property damage too.
I love a woman that can also be a war criminal.
What's the theme
know?
of this episode? What's
A lover scorned.
Ah, yep. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Sounds like a lover scorched, but that's right.
A lover ripped in
The
half.
fact that you continue to laugh at my stupid wordplay a year and a half into this, no, I love
good.
it. I like. Thank
I need
you.
serotonin from somewhere.
I say it to my primary audience, which is high school students,
Yeah.
and like either A, they don't get it, or
Yeah.
B, they're like boo,
Boo
hiss.
Yeah, because you're an
skibbity.
adult. And what does that mean? We don't know. So the Drevlians were all burned to death.
Okay, well, the 20 best of the Drevlians.
Yeah, I don't know what quantity of
Sure.
Drevlians this one was.
She's
but
now
several.
burned or killed or buried 20 plus.
Yeah, at least 20 for sure.
You know the really nice thing about burying the first group alive?
Mm-hmm.
Once you put the stones back, like absolutely no evidence of their
That
murder.
place is so haunted.
Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart could never.
True. Telltale 20 hearts, more like.
Nice.
The
I love
Raven
the alliteration
Who.
there.
Yeah. So Olga wasn't done yet. Don't be fooled. 20 was not enough. There's more of the Drevlians.
Sure.
So she sends the Drevlians the following message. I am now coming to you. So prepare great quantities of mead in the city where you killed my husband, that I may weep over his grave and hold a funeral feast for him. And they were like, yeah, sure.
That
Like,
makes sense.
We sent you all these people to escort you. We sent the ambassadors beforehand to convince you, and now you're coming, but you want to mourn your dead husband first.
And
That
it's
makes sense.
actually not even suspicious at all that we haven't heard from anyone.
Yeah,
since.
because it's the 900s. So Olga's true to her word, and she comes to them with a small escort of her own. The Drevlians prepared a great feast for Olga's arrival, and when she arrived, she did weep for her husband and then sat to feast and had her followers tend to everyone at the feast. And the Drevlians were like, hey, what happened to the people that we sent to escort you? And she was like, oh, don't worry. They're like, they're just behind us. They're coming real soon with my husband's bodyguard. And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And so the Drevlians are like, well, I guess like we'll know something's wrong if they don't come tonight.
The Drevlians are people that had like one good idea, and then
The
everything else was
Drevlians,
bad.
yeah. So the Drevlians get drunk on the mead that she asked them to provide.
Sure.
And so once they're drunk, Olga gives the order to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes part in the killing with her followers that were tending to everyone. 5,000 Drevlians are killed.
That sounds right.
Yeah, right?
I was waiting for you to. Can I say something real
Yeah, go
quick?
for it.
Okay, so Ukraine is north of the Black Sea, and before this time period, during the time of the kind of like traditional ancient Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, starting in 500 AD, it's called the Byzantine Empire or the Roman Empire.
They'll make an appearance.
Sure, I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
There's just like kind of contrasting terms, but we're talking about like original Roman Republic, Roman Empire, right? They try to conquer the area around the Black Sea, which includes places like Thrace, things like that, but it also is home to these mounted horseback warriors called the Scythians. Or Scythians. There's a couple different pronunciations to it. I'm going to go Scythians. And there's a story of a great queen of the Scythians who essentially lets her gender dupe these guys into thinking that she's powerless and gets them drunk and kills like a whole bunch of them and sends one of their heads back, like one of the main guys' head back. I might be misremembering some details, but it's basically like gets them drunk, doesn't think she's going to do anything because she's queen, murders all of them, sends their head back, and was like, don't underestimate me, leave my lands.
And that's basically what Cersei did, just like with more magic and turning them into pigs.
What?
Do you remember this? So Cersei, the like Greek goddess.
I was in Game of Thrones. Sorry.
No.
Sorry. I'm with you now again.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
she never turned anyone in Westeros into
no,
a
no,
pig.
no.
That's a Studio Ghibli movie, if I remember
Yes.
correctly.
No. This one, men would dock on her shores, and inevitably they would always try and like seduce her, or someone would try and seduce her. So she would bring them into her home, she would feed them, and then would just turn them all. And she got so fed up. And then Odysseus was, I think, one of the last ones because he was like, hey, what happened to all my men? And she was like, well, they're out back. They're all pigs.
Right.
And then he was like, you can't do that. And she was like, prove it.
I mean, you enjoyed your meal, did you not?
Yeah, literally. Anyway.
Have you read The House on the Cerulean Sea? No. Do you want to take up residence in my guest bedroom tomorrow and just read The House by the Cerulean Sea?
One of these days, yeah.
I'm not giving you just need an escape
like
from
a
it
day
all.
this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go on a run and I can give you the code to the Bohawk's house, which is empty for at least another 48 hours. I can say that because it'll be published long after
they open
return.
the door and I'm on the couch. Hey.
Just cheese. Oh, I'd be in the bathtub. You know, the huge 12-foot bathtub.
I'm jealous of that bathtub.
Actually, I'm thinking about texting them on a scale of 1 to it's away because you're already doing it. How mad would you be if you found out I did a bath bomb in your bathtub right now? How many people do you think
you can do it in our bathtub?
Do you have a clawfoot?
No, we don't.
I love you.
A bathtub.
I mean, tambien.
I want a clawfoot.
Do you think everyone now is plus 15 through all of this?
I hope not.
Shotgun half-told Greco-Roman history and now just bathtub discourse.
We thought no one listened to the end, and we got so many messages of gin and tonic.
Oh no,
so
I know, and we love it.
Yeah.
It was really, really sweet.
I only ever skip through ads when I'm listening to a podcast, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's why Dragon Ball Z didn't send us more money then.
Damn it. Anyway, Olga is killing a bunch of people. So Olga and her crew kill about 5,000 people.
Yeah, she did a whole red wedding thing.
Yeah, literally.
At the side of her husband's death too, which is actually dope.
She's badass.
Either she loved him or she wanted to consolidate her own power, or both. I mean,
it's really not clear.
Yeah.
I assume she kind of liked him, I guess. So Olga at this point is like, okay, we won't kill the rest of you. We'll leave. We'll gather our army.
Right.
And
now that your entire leadership has been
and
gutted.
we will wipe out the rest of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the year 1946, a year later, I mean, like chronologically a year later, I'm not sure if it was like actually a calendar year later, Olga and her son gather an army and attack the land of the Drevlians.
Love the name Olga and her son because it's Olga, like a 19-year-old woman, and her like 4-year-old child who's like massacre. War crime, all of
Let's
them.
do it.
Isn't that right, Timothy?
Yeah. Yes. So here's a quote from the primary chronicle. The latter, referring to the son, came out to meet her troops, and when both forces were ready for combat, the son, whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce again, cast his spear against the Drevlians, but the spear barely cleared the horse's ears and struck against his leg, for the prince was but a child.
Right.
Then two names that I can't pronounce either, Sveanald and Asmund, oh, look at that, said, the prince has already begun battle. Press on, vassals, after the prince. Thus they conquered the Drevlians, with the result that the latter fled and shut themselves up in their cities.
Okay.
So at this point, they're just like going through the Drevlian land, and they're like, that one's mine, all of this land in between is mine. They're like, everyone is at least like bending the knee and paying tribute, or like going into their cities and closing the big gas gates. The small folk are pissed, you know. Okay, so Olga and her son then went to Iskorosten, modern-day northern Ukrainian city of Krosten. This was where her husband was murdered, where the initial massacre occurred. And they laid siege to that city. This is the last Drevlian city that they had left to conquer.
Okay.
The Drevlians, the remaining Drevlians who had not decided to pay tribute to Olga, had barricaded themselves in.
Okay.
This siege lasts...
Winning strategy.
Yeah, for at least a year.
Right.
A year later, the siege is still ongoing, and Olga's ready. Olga's ready for her final act.
Sure.
She's the maestro of this beautiful concerta
and
of revenge.
She's had a year to really kind of ponder it.
And she's like, well, they're not really...
We call that think time in the teaching biz.
Think time in her little tent. You know, she can go back to Kiev and like do some thinking there, have some wine.
The tough thing is like sieges do take forever, but if you're like one of the rulers, a siege can actually be like really quite enjoyable.
Right, it's a vacation.
Right, because you are pillaging the local like countryside.
Yeah.
And because you're there for so long, you do get like living quarters set up again. You know,
basically
there is that line from Game of Thrones where like Lady Tyrell's like, the only thing my son besieged at the Lannisters' castle was the buffet table.
Yeah. Insane, girl. Same. So she's a year in, and she's like, let's just get this over with. Right. She sends this message out into the city. This is a direct quote again. Why do you persist in holding out? All your cities have surrendered to me and submitted to tribute, so that the inhabitants now cultivate tier fields and their fields and their lands in peace. But you had rather die of hunger without submitting to tribute. And the Drevlians replied, I'm going to paraphrase because there's not actually a direct quote, but I think this is hilarious. We're glad to submit. Like, we'll give you tribute. You don't seem ready to accept our tribute because you're avenging your dead husband.
Hey, we're actually totally fine, like, calling this a while ago.
Like, are you?
But you kind of seem to be going through something
right
now.
Do you need to talk
I don't
about
know if that's
it?
hilarious, genius, or insulting, or stupid, or
Yeah, like, and she.
So
Okay.
you just seem like kind of like woman angry right now, and we thought you
Like,
needed some time.
Do you need some time, or is it that time of the
That's
month?
exactly what I was waiting for you to say.
Yeah. And so Olga's response is then, since I have already avenged the misfortune of my husband twice on the occasions when your messengers came to Kiev, and a third time when I held a funeral feast for him, I do not desire further revenge.
Sure.
But I'm anxious to receive tribute. After I have made peace with you, I shall return to my city again. So what do you want? Is basically what the Drevlians say. They're like, what do you want for tribute? You've been putting us
Right.
under siege for a year.
I know exactly what I'm asking for if
yeah.
I'm Queen Olga. Can I
what do you
say what
think?
my demands are?
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be, apropos the correct number of like gold and wheat and barley, and I'm sure like horses and livestock and things. And then I'm asking for hostages. I want a couple of highborn sons and a couple of highborn daughters that I won't imprison. Like, they'll be treated well back in my capital city. But if you're even late on a payment, I'm going to kill one.
That feels very reasonable.
Thank you. It's historically based. So there's like a
Olga
lot of historical
is a lot
precedent.
of things, and reasonable is not one of them.
What does this girl want?
So basically, they're like, okay, but like, what do you want? Because we don't have a lot. And she basically says, you really have no furs or mead or honey or any of the things that are traditionally tribute.
Right.
So I'll be kind. I'll give you mercy. Give me 3 pigeons, she said, and 3 sparrows from each house. I do not desire to impose a heavy tribute like my husband, but I require only this small gift from you, for you are impoverished by the siege. So they're like, okay,
What?
3 pigeons and 3 sparrows.
At this point, they're like, this is a trap.
At this point, they're like, we're all starving. Here. We collected pigeons and sparrows from every house.
Right.
And we're giving them to you right now. And so they send them to Olga, and Olga is like, perfect. Amazing. You did great. I will leave in the morning. These people need to stop giving her the night to contemplate things.
Can I now guess what she does?
Yeah.
I'm almost afraid it's going to ruin it. I'm going to write it on my notes app, and I'm going to let you hold on 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I've also loved that this has become a new element to our show sometimes. I was like, let me capture my prediction first. It's actually so funny even just typing it out.
Yeah. Okay. So she spends the night there, or theoretically anyway. It comes dusk, and imagine you're a person in this city.
Uh-huh.
Suddenly you just see pigeons and sparrows
Hell
being
yeah,
released.
mother. Hell yeah.
Being released back into the city, and you're like, maybe she just was just being generous, right? And so all these pigeons and sparrows that she has now released back into the city go back to their nests and everything, where there's
and their
hay.
thatch roofs and hay and their attics.
And then everything sets on fire. Because Olga had given each soldier in her army a pigeon or sparrow and had them attach a piece of like tinder or sulfur with a piece of thread. It's not super clear the chemistry of the situation. Basically, it's a piece of tinder and then something to ignite a flame so that when the bird goes back in somewhere, the friction on that piece of tinder ignites a flame. And basically now you just have a bunch of like bombs essentially, and we'll get into modern day implications in a second.
Are you going to talk about bats?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, sure. Just for a split second. I'll just say it right now. It sounds cray-cray, but the U.S. Army did something similar with bats in Japan in World War II.
Do you know why it actually wasn't more widely spread and used? Okay, so first the context. So yes, the U.S. government did on a couple occasions release...
They called them bat bombs.
Right, bats into Japanese cities, which were historically made out of wood, in part because of the humidity of Japan. And then they would fly into these homes and then nest in the rafters and then get caught on fire. The issue was they had to refrigerate the bats because you had to stun them enough that you could attach stuff to them, but freezing them would kill them. And at room temperature, they would fight back.
Yeah.
And so they would do that on the bats. And then on a couple of occasions, the bats would start to fly away before they could get put back in the fridge. And they set a couple of U.S. military facilities on fire via the exact same technology.
Yeah.
And also, now this is like very sad, but historically accurate. The U.S. just developed incendiary bombs and didn't need bats anymore to burn down Japanese cities. And incendiary bombs wouldn't raft in U.S. hangars and blow up. And
we could just blow up whole cities with one big bomb.
Right, correct. There's
or maybe two cities.
There's actually
two
like
big bombs.
a lot of going to that. But the U.S. did the bat thing first.
Yeah, true. But you know who did it first?
First, Olga.
Olga.
So the city catches on fire.
Yeah, this is a quote from the Primary Chronicle. There was not a house that was not consumed, and it was impossible to extinguish the flames because all the houses caught fire at once. The people fled from the cities, and Olga ordered her soldiers to catch them. Thus, she took the city and burned it and captured the elders of the city. Some of the other captives she killed while she gave others as slaves to her followers.
Right.
The remnants she left to pay tribute. So... anyway, the Drevlians don't exist today, and Olga is why.
The tough thing is, especially when it comes to historical stories like this, there is this like carrot and stick kind of method to ruling conquered lands, and it's like you do actually, historically speaking, maybe not true today in a more modern context, but historically speaking, like you do have to actually be like unspeakably evil to discourage, to like make the price of entry to rebellion super high. But then outside of like the unspeakable evils you will visit upon them, like the actual stuff you can impose on them needs to be super low. Like I know they're not characterized as heroes.
It's like Rhaenyra in House of Dragon.
Yes, no, and that's like I know they're not heroes in a Western civilization context, but the Persians were great at this. Like the Persians would like let you keep your form of government, they'd let you keep your local deities and things like that. Basically, the only thing the Persians needed you to change after they conquered you was who you paid your taxes to, and if they called on like troops for their military, you needed to respond. But like otherwise, like conquered kings oftentimes just became like lords of where they were. And that worked out really well. And then the inverse of that was like unspeakable punishment if you rose up against the empire. The Assyrians also did stuff like that.
That's wild.
The predecessor to the Persians.
So that's Olga's A Lover Scorned story. We're gonna now talk for we're reaching the end a little bit. So during the remainder of Olga's regency, she defended the capital during the 968 siege of Kiev and other things.
Who's sieging them in 968? Is it just more of their vassals?
Couldn't tell you. Probably. I think the website told me, and then I didn't write it down. Her main goal at this point is to save the throne for her son, right? And so she saves the capital from being like overtaken, and she also has to evade tons of marriage proposals like from all over the place.
Girl, I get it.
Yeah. They're just really coming out of the woodworks. So she reformed the system of tribute gathering. This is the first recorded legal reform in Eastern Europe. She established a lot of towns and boundary posts, trading posts, and hunting reserves. A lot of them on this like route through conquering the Drevlians, and a lot of them still exist today. She helped to centralize state rule using these trade centers, which helped more solidly establish the rule of the Kievan Rus in general, because it was very kind of loosely bound, and their relationship with their vassals was also kind of loosely bound. So this whole system kind of helped solidify it a bit. This also served as a method of ethnic and cultural unification of the Kievan Rus. When her son finally did take over, Olga would then stay in charge of Kiev when he was away playing military commander, which was a direct quote from one of my sources, and I thought that was funny. 1957, Olga visits... 957. Olga visits Constantinople, which is the seat of the Byzantine Empire. Specifically, she was visiting Emperor Constantine the Seventh.
Sorry.
Constantine.
It's just funny to hear the name Constantinople and then the emperor's name Constantine in the same sentence.
You're like, okay, you're original, aren't you?
Tom Stantinople. Yeah. Like, it's just like a city I found.
And my home is named Constantine.
Right. If visit Sedgwick County was the place I could afford land.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so there are 3 different accounts of this trip that she takes to the Byzantine Empire. One is from the Book of the Ceremonies, which largely consists of the Byzantine etiquette, i.e. like how to receive a princess of the Kievan Rus, and like what do you do at dinner, and like which fork do you use. And so the thing that we're about to talk about does not mention what I'm about to mention.
Okay.
And that some people are like, well, if it didn't mention it, that means it didn't happen.
Sure.
But like,
all right, back to Nestor, the compiler.
no, not really. I mean, we will talk about him at the end, but there is John Skylitz's Synopses of Histories that does mention what I'm about to discuss, and then the Primary Chronicle, which is the same source as the above story. So the big thing that happened during this trip that the Synopses of Histories and the Primary Chronicle agree on is that Olga converted to Christianity.
Okay.
And thus became the first Christian ruler of the Kievan Rus.
Is that when she's in Constantinople she converts?
Theoretically, yeah.
Okay.
The Book of Ceremonies obviously makes no mention of her baptism. The Synopsis of Histories briefly mentions this trip in that Olga was baptized and was a devout follower and then goes back home to the Kievan Rus. The Primary Chronicle goes into much more detail, says that she was baptized by the emperor and the patriarch Polyeuctus. The emperor definitely makes some passes at her.
Okay.
And was like super impressed by her.
And he's like, what a great way to consolidate our 2 empires.
Literally. He was basically like, I finally met someone that's worthy of ruling next to me, I think is what he says.
There's literally this great Karen Walker quote from the show Will and Grace, where she's like, I just want someone who's funny and makes me laugh and treats me right and likes kittens and the hardcore bondage scene. It's like, I imagine that's what Emperor Constantine is. He goes, I just want a girl who loves wine and can make me laugh and like isn't afraid of like murdering children for political gains.
It's like the Broadway song that I sang to you.
God, I hope I get it. That one?
No, the one that's she's like, I hope he has brown eyes or blue eyes or green eyes. Well, I don't care, but I hope he's really into baking and I hope he has a really nice body, like the kind that you get from the gym. And nice. I hope he has this and this, but like it doesn't have to be. And then it's like this whole long list.
What's his version of I'm looking for a guy in finance?
I'm looking for a gal with a wit who's intelligent and really pretty.
No living spouses.
Yes, no living spouses.
Heir to a country.
Literally. So anyway, he makes some passes at her, and that's definitely something that...
Do your sources suggest that she converted to Christianity for like political reasons?
No.
Oh, they think it was like heartfelt.
They think it was heartfelt, but we're going to talk about it for a second. So the emperor is intrigued by her. Here's a quote from the Primary Chronicle. Olga went to Greece and arrived at Tsargrad. The reigning emperor was named Constantine, son of Leo. Olga came before him, and when he saw that she was very fair of countenance and wise as well, the emperor wondered at her intellect. He conversed with her and remarked that she was worthy to reign with him in his city. When Olga heard his words, she replied that she was still a pagan, and that if he desired to baptize her, he should perform this function himself. Otherwise, she was unwilling to accept the baptism. The emperor, with the assistance of the patriarch, accordingly baptized her.
Okay.
Again, so she's like, if you want me to do it yourself.
Right.
Which is what she said to the
I'm
Drevlians.
not going to let some commoner lay their hands on me.
Which, I mean...
I need your strong, emperor, silky smooth hands to dunk me in water and decide if I get to break the surface again.
Wow.
We're both looking for the same kind of girl.
It's true. And so she gets baptized. Okay. She comes out a Christian, right? And
as opposed to what, like a goat?
Yeah. Actually, yes. And Constantine is like, okay, you're Christian. I think he also has a wife at this point, so I don't know what the deal is with that. Anyway, he asks her to marry him. And she was like, oh, well, you can't, because by the laws of the Christian church, you're my godfather, and it would not be proper for a godfather to marry her.
Hilarious that she already knew the rules. And she was like, oh, this is just something fun that we're doing.
Yeah.
No, I have a son already. I'm never going to get married.
Yeah, she was like, no, I'm actually having a really great time ruling in my son's
I
stead.
love that monologue from Little Women.
Yeah. Yes.
And we'd fight all the time and we'd make each other miserable. And I don't think I'll ever get married, Lori. I love that monologue. Don't know why. I have no way to relate to it.
There was one source that claimed that Constantinople was like, you done it again. You outwit me.
God, like every day, like I fall more in love with you. And that's why I can't have
Exactly.
you. It's a Julia Roberts movie from the 90s. And I
It
love
really
it.
is. And so she took on the Christian name Helena, I believe, which
Okay.
there was like, it could have been based off of Constantine's mother, Saint Helena, or there was another source that said Constantine's current wife was named Helena. So anyway,
no obstacle to love there, though.
yeah, beyond that, the story of the baptism, and the whole story, in fact, could be embellished for the sake of her whole appearance.
Sure.
Obviously. Francis Butler, who's a historian who wrote one of the papers that I wrote, or that I read parts of, said that...
I read an article. Well, I read most of an article.
Francis Butler says that particularly the story of her baptism isn't likely to have happened the way the primary chronicle tells it. If you go into actual records, it says the church Slavonic sources that she was baptized in Constantinople in 957, but the Byzantine sources say that she was already a Christian prior to that 57 visit. It's historically, like looking at the records, it's most likely she was baptized in Kiev in 955. So it's not like super clear. And now's a good time to mention that the primary chronicle has been disputed in a lot of scenarios.
I just love the idea of Olga being like, I mean, I've already been baptized, but like, I don't know if it's stuck or not.
Yeah, like baptize me again, Daddy.
Exactly.
And that way, when you propose, I can say no without ruining our political relationship.
Appropriate.
Yeah, and that's one of the things the historian said, that she did. If that's how it happened, she did that to maintain the political alliance between her country, or her, like, I don't know, organization, the Kievan Rus and the Byzantine Empire.
Constantine, I'm only happy when I'm burning cities down or forcing children into slavery for my vassals. I couldn't be a wife.
I can't do that.
That chapter's behind me.
My-
and I'd be
my
like,
husband-
Laura Dern.
Yeah, yes! Laura Dern, only if Meryl Streep's involved for somehow.
She can play Constantine.
Yeah,
she's
she
the right
could.
choice. I mean,
She
we
could.
all know it's Adam Driver, but that's
She's
fine.
The right choice
She's
for anything.
everything.
Adam Driver.
Listen,
Wow.
this is why you keep us around. And by us, I mean
was
gay
good,
people,
gays.
because we know
You can
actors.
cast. You're all casting directors. You were born casting directors.
Thank you so much. It's actually, ironically, like a huge part of my job in August and September is me going, you know what, you junior in high school girl, you know what you remind me of? Irish abortion
monologue.
rights activist.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's just like, and here you go. I love my
That's
job.
the attention I craved in high school, and I never got it. Actually, in senior year of choir, there was one solo, and I always wanted to be this person that, like, the solo was just given. And I just, my choir teacher, I think, is like a way of, like, I don't know, giving me my, like, last, like, final hurrah, because
Sure.
I had been in 2 choirs, like, my entire high school career, and I had, like, helped her, like, I was president and vice president of one, and, you know, like, doing all this stuff. And she was just like, and anyway, Warner will take this. I'm not actually ever sure that she knew my first name. But she just gave me this solo for our final concert of the year, a spring concert that we called Pops. And I got so sick the night before. Pops was a 4-night concert, and I got so sick the night before the first night. And so the first 3 nights, I refused to give up that solo because Lottie was my vice president. And so Lottie was like, if you don't sing this solo, Wilmarth going to give it to me, and I don't want it. And I was like, okay, I mean, like, if I know that that's the alternative, I'm going to sing it. And it didn't sound...
The show must go on.
Yeah. And so anyway, the 4th night, I sang it the way I wanted to, and that's the one that got recorded. And so that's all anyone will ever know me for. Anyway.
There is this insanely funny skit from SNL called High School Cast List or High School Theater Cast List, starring Will Ferrell.
With Will Ferrell,
Yes.
yeah. And he puts up the cast.
Yes,
Yes.
and it's
I
listen,
love that
do you know
one.
who loves that?
Who?
Griffin, who was never once ever in any theater or any choir.
He would.
Griffin only would go to my performances when mom and dad like dragged him to it. He thinks it's so funny because he just finds the humor funny. And I'm like, you don't understand the documentary
It's so
they
accurate.
put together.
And all the little relationships.
Right. I forget what her name is, so we're just going to call her
Yes.
Tammy. But Will Ferrell was like, Tammy, do you want a leading role? And she's like, I don't really care. And he goes, and that's why you'll get one.
Yeah.
Griffin just thinks it's funny the way he says it. And I was like,
That's
don't know.
literally exact.
Don't quote the old magic at me, which I was there when it was written.
I I told you the girl in high school that was always the leading role. Well, her head got, and she like didn't end up getting into any of the big colleges for theater because of her attitude. And her head got a little too big for her britches. That wasn't a real phrase, but whatever. Okay. Yeah.
They're still with us.
Yeah, junior year. And she was, I guess, going around telling people that she was going to get the leading role before the cast list was, before auditions even happened. And so she got put in the chorus. And that was my favorite performance to watch. I just watched her the whole time and I was like, that sucks for you.
No small parts.
That was the year she quit choir because she was like, I'm really going to focus on theater. And we were like, it must suck, doesn't it?
I just am so grateful that my straight, married, heterosexual, cisgendered brother is such a girl when it comes to this. And I don't mean like in an insult way.
No,
I mean like of the culture way.
He's not.
He gets it.
He has
I know 2 episodes.
good masculinity.
He does. Like super healthy.
Yeah.
I know I talked about this 2 episodes ago, but legitimately he was watching a Chapel Roan video and just loved it and was like, I need to tell Grant about this. And at the end there was a drag queen playing the guitar. He's like, oh, Grant definitely already knows about it.
And he was right.
And while I'm thrilled for it, the person who's also thrilled but also like confused about it, Griffin's wife, my gorgeous sister-in-law, is like, what do you mean? You're like, Griffin's like, Pink Pony Club just gets me going, Taylor.
It's low. It's so good. Okay. So anyway, she becomes a Christian.
Sorry. We're talking about Olga.
Yeah, she becomes a Christian. So the primary chronicle reports that Olga received the patriarch's blessing for her journey home. So she gets baptized theoretically and then goes back to Kiev. And there she unsuccessfully attempts to convert her son to Christianity.
Oh, because he's like a teenager now.
Probably more than that, right? Because he was 3 in 45.
Okay.
And this is 57.
Okay.
Yeah, so yes, a teenager.
18.
But yeah.
15 to 18.
So now, this is a quote again from the primary chronicle. Now Olga dwelt with her son, whose name I'm not going to pronounce, but you know the idea. And she urged him to be baptized, but he would not listen to her suggestion. Though when any man wished to be baptized, he was not hindered, but only mocked. For to the infidels, the Christian faith is foolishness. They do not comprehend it because they walk in darkness and do not see the glory of God. Their hearts are hardened, and they can neither hear with their ears nor see with their eyes. For Solomon has said, the deeds of the unrighteous are far from wisdom. Inasmuch I have called you, and ye heard me not, I sharpened my words, and ye understood not, but ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would have none of my reproach. For they have hated knowledge, and they fear the Jehovah they have not chosen. They would none of my counsel, but despised all of my reproof. So anyway, they said no.
So Olga was the original. Love the sinner, hate the sin.
But it will be said that she did a lot of good work convincing her son that, like, although everyone in Kiev and Rus traditionally was pagan,
right,
she convinced her son to be like, if someone decides to be Christian,
don't prosecute.
Yeah, just like let them. And he was like, fine, because technically I would have to persecute you, and it would be a whole thing. And I want to go out on my war crimes.
Right,
and
right,
then
right.
You rule the city.
Who's going to take care of things? Yes. Who's going to murder innocents in my absence?
Yeah, literally. And so she did a lot of good work in regards to that. According to the primary chronicle, Olga died from illness in 969, soon after a different siege of the city. When her son announced plans to move his throne to the Danube region, the ailing Olga convinced him to stay with her during her final days. Only 3 days later, she died, and her family and the larger parts of Kiev and Rus mourned. And this is another quote from the primary chronicle. The son announced to his mother and the boyars, I do not care to remain in Kiev, but should prefer to live in Salovets.
Spell it real quick.
Peryaslavet.
Nope, I'm already gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peryaslavet on the Danube. It's on the Danube. That's what's important. Since
What?
It's the Blue Danube. The song.
Wait, that's the name of that song?
Yeah, it's called the Blue Danube.
Oh, that's fine.
It's based out of this river. since that is the center of my realm where all riches are concentrated. Gold, silks, wine, and various fruits from Greece, silver and horses from Hungary and Bohemia, and from Rus, furs, wax, honey, and slaves. But Olga made reply, you behold me in my weakness. Why do you desire to depart from me? For she was already in precarious health. She thus remonstrated with him and begged him first to bury her and then go wherever he would. 3 days later, Olga died. Her son wept for her with great mourning, as did likewise her grandsons and all the people. They thus carried her out and buried her in her tomb. Olga had given command not to hold a funeral feast for her, for she had a priest who performed the last rites over the sainted princess. So although the son disapproved of his mother's Christian values, he heeded Olga's request that her priest, Gregory, conduct a Christian funeral without the pagan burial feast. So she got buried as she would have wanted, not what he would have wanted,
wishes.
which is nice. Yeah.
Actually,
Her tomb remained in Kiev for over 2 centuries, but was destroyed by the Mongolian Tartar armies of Batu Khan in 1240. The sarcophagus was found in 1826 during excavations of the Church of Tithes, according to architect Nikolai Efimov, and was attributed as being Olga's and moved first to the Historical Museum and then to St. Sophia's Cathedral. So anyway, she's a saint now.
In the Orthodox Church.
I believe so. In 1547, she was given the title of Isapostolis, which is equal to the apostles.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Because of her influence in proselytizing the Eastern
allowing
Orthodox
Christianity
Church.
to flourish in the Ukraine region.
Ruthenian Greek Catholic Church and the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church call Olga by that honorific, Isapostolos, equal to the apostles. Olga's feast day is July 11th, which is the date of her death. The Orthodox Church of Ukraine celebrates her memory on the 24th of July. In keeping with her own biography, she is the patron of widows and converts. And there's a quote from Museum Hack, the one that had all the banger quotes from earlier. So what is the lesson here? Perhaps it's this. Medieval Christianity's capacity for forgiveness was boundless, especially if you could boost membership. So here are some of the nicknames of Olga. Viking Saint, Warrior Princess, the Shield of Kiev, the Empress Saint.
Ooh, I love the Shield of Kiev. That's actually really cool.
Yeah. Empress Saint, Saint Olga, Saint Helena, Olga the Beauty. And here is my favorite painting of Olga.
Oh, she looks pissed.
Yeah.
She had to sit for it and she looks so angry. And she's holding her little cross as like a sword. That's so cool.
This is so because
I dig it.
Looks like a saint,
Hold
but
on.
her face is so mad.
Hold on. This is the face I make when kids are misbehaving in class.
That's the face I've made all day today.
Do you know why it works for her and me?
Why?
The bags under her eyes. It's like, oh, bright, shining day, anything's possible. And wait, where did that storm cloud come from?
Yeah.
Why is it purple?
But anyway.
Obsessed.
That is the story of Olga of Kiev. And the reason I found it is from...
That was my exact next question. I was like, I mean, I know why I would have stumbled across something like this. What are you doing here?
It was a TikTok that said Olga of Kiev is the modern day, or is the actual, like, historical version of Daenerys Targaryen.
Oh.
Or Cersei Lannister.
Interesting. Because there's a whole different historical conflict that kind of is assumed to be based off
If you actually look up, like, who is the inspiration for Daenerys Targaryen, mostly men.
Sure.
By the way, but I do believe Cersei Lannister took from her. Like,
I think it was called the War of the Roses in England too, between two different houses, which is also kind of a big basis for a lot of that stuff.
Oh yeah, and all of the characters, I think George R. R. Martin has said who some of the inspirations were, and they're all multiple historical figures, and it's kind of crazy. But anyway.
Yeah, I'd love to answer that question. Thanks so much. So I think the role of modern day, but no. So there is this conversation in history education, which I always thought was really interesting because you'd attend, and I know I've made this joke before, but newer listeners will be new. I've made this joke before where you would go to conferences for history teachers, and there'd be two insanely different groups of people in the same room. The first would be the person who probably taught most of you social studies, which is the defensive coordinator for your high school football team.
Right, yeah.
Maybe the basketball coach, right?
And mine was the lacrosse.
Right, of course they were. And I mean, I know I have that look. I know.
He would give you a good pep talk right before going on the field.
I unironically wore cargo shorts after college. Not for long, but for a while, right? And so those and they are, for the most part, good dudes, right? Yeah. Who like legitimately do want to work with young people and help develop their self-confidence and their sense of self, but aren't necessarily in love with history, right? And then on the other side, the other group taking up the other half of the room are like these like principled, introspective scholars who could have kind of gone into other fields, but think wrestling with historical narratives is so important to like crafting and understanding our present.
Right.
And then you would put both of them in a room together and you would talk lesson plans. And it was really funny. But all of that, which is super long-winded, making me more like the first group than the second, was to say that like we have by and large as a profession moved away from like needing to instruct on dates and even to a lesser degree names, not totally, but like names aren't necessarily as important either. And it's way more about like understanding movements and things like this. So for instance, I got into not an argument, but like a discourse with a teacher in the same network as I was in about teaching like emerging economic theory, like based in the title of the book was like Common Sense or something like that. It was you know what I'm talking about?
By T-Pain.
Yeah, something like that. Might have been a little bit later too, but it was basically like the foundations of understanding economic theory. And he was like, that's what we should be teaching kids. We should be teaching from this primary source. And I was like, I mean, you literally have like Dickens novels explaining in like real world like how this economic theory was playing out on the backs of like real people.
They'll
and that's like
remember that more.
Right. Not only will they remember that more, but it'll contextualize it a lot more. You can drag it much more easily into like the present day. And it also like points out the fact that these like haughty intellectual ideas have like real world consequences. Even if we do enjoy a better standard of living now because of it, like children's fingers were crushed in machines to get there. And I think that's an important part of the narrative too.
You can't just talk about the numbers. You have to talk about the impact. Yeah.
Exactly. I now only teach speech and debate. I know you know this. I think most of our listeners know this too. And I don't regret that at all. That is absolutely where my like passion lies. But I did love the years that I spent teaching exclusively world history. And the last thing I'll say is my favorite lesson that I ever ran still was when we recreated the guillotining of the French aristocracy with the paper cutter I would steal from the teacher's office that day.
Hell yeah.
And it was great because the kids would have to recite like why the French peasantry was mad at the aristocrats.
Right.
And then after you cut off one person's head and you like hold it up and you're like, and like all the kids are like, right? Like a frenzy takes over because they think it's fun and they want to do it to everyone. And at the end you could talk about like the Reign of Terror and like how that like feeds into itself as well. So you're both analyzing terror. I don't know what I said.
You said tower.
Sure.
I was like, I mean,
Maximilian Robes per year. And so it's just and that's the cool part about history. I love that kind of stuff.
History's wild.
So, it really is.
I enjoy really ancient history. Also because like with this, the Primary Chronicle, there's a bunch of historians that are like, I mean,
yes, it
could have just been like propaganda essentially for Olga.
Right, exactly.
Olga's legitimacy. Not that she was alive at this point, but also incredible fucking story.
Right.
And there's no direct hard evidence to disprove really any of it aside from like the timeline of her baptism. Right. And so
in understanding the like fall of the Assyrians, rise of the Persians, and then their war with the Greek city-states, which will ultimately set up the stage for Alexander the Great. So that whole chronicle, Dan Carlin has this, it's called King of Kings, and it's a 3-part episode. And he uses the Greek historian Herodotus, who takes all of these narratives and stories and puts them all together in a tale. And the thing you need to understand about Herodotus is that this wasn't like a book that was going to get published. It was like a play that was going to be performed in front of people. So it's like naturally theatrical.
Right.
And as Dan Carlin says, you hate Herodotus because it's so hard to figure out what is his own narration to get you from point A to point B, to connect events together for it to make sense for the audience. But like you hate Herodotus until you don't have him. right? And then
And
like
then
the
it
history
suddenly
afterwards.
yeah.
Right, where
You're
it's like it's
oh.
dark, right? It was
Mhm.
like there was even if it wasn't fully accurate, there was like a color to the narrative, and now we're like grasping at straws to put it
Right.
all together. Thank you for just giving me the chance to say that sentence.
Oh, I was really just hoping that you would take over on your like history education.
Oh, like I am like right now.
Yeah,
for
I was
example.
like, this amount of notes will be fine. Grant will talk about history and shit. I don't know.
Yeah, because we're not even talking about the principality that's coming out of like Muscovy, which is going to form like the heart of like what we understand as Russia
Anyway,
today.
if you want to find more of us,
Oh, okay, cool. Listen, there was listeners, especially if you're just audio. I don't know if you can see this, but I was making eyes to Maia, and it's like I can do another 10 minutes if we need another 10 minutes. I don't know how long you envision this episode being, but I can keep going.
goodbye. There's Thai food waiting for
I was
me
gonna say I don't need
outside.
to. Sorry, I'll let you do the speech. Oh, and we have to come up with
The title, yeah.
I know what it's gonna be.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Perfect. If you would like to contact us or send us a story, which we would love for you to send,
Yes.
email us at wellileftpod@gmail.com. And please don't be offended when we inevitably don't respond right away, because we won't. And then if you want more content behind the scenes, Grant's maybe doing a cooking thing coming up. Go to Patreon, where we have a very economical little monthly membership that will help support the podcast. Patreon, we're Well I Laughed Podcast. If you want to see the video, we're Well I Laughed on YouTube, and then we post social media stuff occasionally when I'm not moving on TikTok. And
It's actually been really nice. There's been a lot fewer comments
there's
for me to
just like
monitor.
nothing I've been posting, because I was like, this is the last thing I'm thinking about. So if you live for our reels, I'm sorry. But we're Welly Laughed on most social medias, and you can reach out to us there. And yeah.
You did a wonderful job. Thank you for sticking around, and thank you, Maia, for letting me
You're
just like
so welcome.
honest to God girl about history for a little bit.
I love hearing you talk about things that you love.
Damn me in. We should start a podcast.
No. You're a white man that looks down on me.
A friend I hadn't heard from in years sent me a video that said, once a month, every friend group looks at each other and goes, we should start a podcast.
And we did.
And I know it was sent in good faith, but I was like, this is an insane shot out of the dark from a person I've not heard from in 2 years.
Do they know that you have a podcast?
Yes, it's 100%.
Oh, okay.
And they're supportive.
Yeah.
But I was like, hilarious that like you've had kids in the time that we started this podcast, and this is the first thing that you said.
It's literally
to me.
insane to me, the people that will reach out just like randomly. Hey, I know we haven't talked in
I
like
know.
a decade, but I saw your podcast, and honestly, it makes my heart so happy. But it's also like,
And
oh my
you know-
God, you're alive. I'm so glad you're doing okay.
Listen, I am now laughing with our listeners who heard us do the closing speech and saw that
Yeah,
there was
we're
still
leaving
2 minutes
now. Okay,
and
good-
was like, they're not done. Bye.
Okay, goodbye.